one of the other things we get into, in addition to feeling good about the Olympics, and that's a great thing. Love when the world comes together, right? I mean, it's so fun. It's strange to have to do this with all the with COVID still around and have no. I mean, normally that stadium would be just packed. And in Tokyo, but it's not. But again, we get all the countries marching through. So I haven't seen the U.S. come through, right? Have they're coming through? I guess towards the end. What are they on Portugal right now? Okay. All right. We'll get to that later. We'll talk more about the Olympics. Let's get into some legal issues. Mark Stiles joins us, by the way, every Friday. Stiles Law on Route 139 in Marshfield. And one of the things we talk about from time to time, we get into real estate topics. And this is a topic here about a question a listener had about land. They recently found out they got some land. This is from an inheritance, I believe. I inherited a piece of land. What should I do next? What do we say to that, Mark?
Well, thank you, I guess, would be the first thing you would say to whomever it was that bequests that to you. It's very generous of whoever that was that left you the land. But the next step is to figure out what it is, right? Is it vacant land or is there a home on it, right? So you want to figure out what you have. And the first step would be to determine, where did this notification come from? Is it real, right? Do I do a title exam? Yes, you do. And then what do you have? Is there any mortgages encumbering it? Are there taxes owed on it? But is it a buildable piece of land? Because back a few years ago, a lot of years ago, there was a lot of land subdivided and given around. In Marshfield specifically, there was land issued to people for subscribing to magazines. And
Really?
They were small. Yeah, they were.
Oh, wow.
It's called the Marshfield Estates, and they were small little pieces of land that would not be buildable nowadays unless certain things happened. Right. This was before we had the zoning bylaws, so you would predate. It would be called what people hear the term a grandfathered lot. So maybe you have. Yeah, so maybe you have a smaller piece of land that otherwise wouldn't be buildable. But if you can prove out that it has stayed within the family and you haven't merged it with any other land, and it follows some minimum standards of 5,000 square feet and 50 feet of frontage and access for emergency vehicles, you could actually get a building permit. So that's one of the things, that not a lot of people know about, because these pieces of land, a lot of people sit back and think, why did my grandfather keep this? Why did he keep paying taxes on it? Well, because someday, somewhere, somebody's going to be able to potentially build on it. But you want to find that out, because what you don't want to do is start paying taxes on something that will never be buildable, right? So you want to decide what you're going to do with that property, right? And the other thing is did you inherit it with multiple siblings or multiple extended family? And what does everybody want to do, right? So that's going to take conferencing and understanding. But if you have a home on there, right, and there's no mortgage, there's value, right? There may even be value with mortgages, right? Is there a reverse mortgage on the property? What are the rules of engagement? So first step is real estate professional, right? Value out what you have. That person would probably then want to engage a real estate attorney like the team at Stiles Law to handle the title exam and to figure out what you have, right? If, like we talked about with the grandfathered lot, there's a process that goes with that, and it's challenging, and not a lot of attorneys understand the grandfathering provisions. It's a esoteric type of zoning specific niche.
Mark, can I just jump in? Okay, so if the piece of land is very small, but I want to build a house on it now, but the rules would say I can't. Are you saying I could possibly or not?
Here's your legal answer. It depends.
Okay.
It depends. So there are ways. So what I'm saying is, if you have a very small piece of land and grandfather gave it to you, and you say, this is useless because somebody told me it's too small.
Yeah.
I think you want to make a phone call before you just let it go back to the town for unpaid taxes, because there's a potential there that it's buildable.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that it would be, but
Yeah.
it's worth looking into, because if certain things are, certain boxes are checked, right? It's been owned by the same family or the same chain of title without merging with other lands since before 1959, and it's a certain size that it might comply with the grandfathering provisions that's available statewide, right? So not townwide. But back to whether or not you have other siblings, you want to meet together, decide what to do and execute, because you were given something of value, whether it's large value, small value, medium-sized value. There's something of value there, and you want to figure out what you have. We could certainly help advise, as well as your real estate professionals.
And I think a lot of people might want to know, Mark, it's Christine, would there be any tax liability if you inherit something like that?
So right now, what we have in place in the United States tax code is what's called a step-up in basis. So regardless of when the person bought it or what they paid for it, at the date of death, the value, the basis, steps up to what that current value is, which is why it would be important to get with a real estate professional right away and try to determine what that value is. Because if you hold on to it and it appreciates from there, then there's taxes associated with it. But depending on the size of the overall estate of the person that's granting you this piece of land, there would not be a tax to the person who's accepting that property. It's a great question, Christine. But there is talks right now that they're going to eliminate the step up in basis as a tax, as a tax benefit to the heir. Similar, they're talking about removing portions of the 1031 exchange, which we've talked about in the past as well. So keep an eye on that. But right now, what would happen is there would be a snapshot on the date of death, and that would be the value of the property.
All right. Well, if
Get
you
you coming and going.
Yeah, let me know if you want to deed some land over to me, Christine, and I'll build a house on it.
Let me look in my folder, see if I have any.
Thank you so much, because everybody seems to want to have some land and to build a house on it. Boy, we have.
That's right.
It's
well, the thing about it is there's not a lot of land out there, and there's a need for housing. And
no, I know.
Some of these folks may actually have a buildable piece of land that they're not even aware of.
Okay, well,
It's worth looking.
Check into it and make a call as well when you want to talk more about it with Mark Stiles about that and other topics as well. Mark Stiles on Route 139 in Marshfield of Stiles Law. And if people want to get in touch with you, Mark, how do they do that?
The best way would be the phone, 781-319-1900, 781-319-1900. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in anything around the law. We have our YouTube channel, which has a bunch of frequently asked questions where we're talking to the consumer, the client, to explain to them some pretty complicated topics, and we try to simplify them as best we can. But anytime you're working with a financial advisor, insurance professional, mortgage, real estate, tax, and the topic of legal needs comes up, please ask to work with the team at Stiles Law. We'd be happy to work with you.
All right, Stiles Law, Route 139 in Marshfield. Mark Stiles on a Feel Good Friday. Thanks, Mark.
Have a great week, Rob and Christine.
Thank you.